was your initial reaction when you were approached about making a documentary on your life?
I laughed actually. I was stunned because, my life is almost over. And I was amazed that anybody wanted to make a documentary about it. I didn't really see my life as something to celebrate because I haven't really enjoyed most of the jobs that I have done. And and then I thought, well, as I've gone through my life and I talk to people every day and they tell them a little bit about my life, and they always say, gosh, you should write a book about that. And I say, no, thanks. If I have the choice, what I'd like to do is sit on my sofa, watch trash TV, and look at pictures of Brad Pitt. But actually, if anybody really wants to devote themselves and sacrifice themselves to making a film about me, and because they think it's something to celebrate and it might help other people, then I think I would try and help. So I said yes.
What motivated you to share your story with the world through this documentary?
I was motivated because the Sheerah network told me they wanted to inspire women from ethnic minorities, Asian women, Black women, and women generally. And I've been a very, very privileged Black woman. I've not ever been a poor Black girl. My dad was white. I went to private boarding school at 6. I speak 5 European languages. I went to University College London. And I'd flown 100,000 miles on my own by the time I was 10. I got the Junior Jet Club badge. And so even when I was quite young, I realized that I was a very privileged person. And I was an activist even when I was 14. I led a sit-in at my boarding school because the nuns wouldn't allow us to watch Dr. Tommy Smith doing his Black Power thing at the 1968 Mexico Olympics. And I always identified with the oppressed Black millions in America. I suddenly realized that I had a great life and they had a horrible life. And I used to write to American prisoners on death row and Angela Davis when I was only 14. And so if Black women wanted to show other Black women that how I managed to escape the fate of those people in America, of Black people around the world who don't have access to education, who don't have access to the higher echelons of university, who don't have access to good healthcare, who have struggled to get a loan from a bank and start a business. If I can help through showing how I escaped that fate, through what my parents did for me and through what I've done through all my life, then I felt it was my duty to try and help.
So, how has reflecting on your life story during the making of the documentary affected you personally?
Well, it's made me feel jolly. It's made me feel very jolly that something that was so soaked in blood, sweat, and tears and fear could actually be beautiful and uplifting and constructive to other communities, Black, white, and maybe even young people as well. It's made me feel happy about it for the first time because all I remember is I was terrified. My blood used to fizz like champagne in my veins when I was at the BBC. I was shuddering all the time. When I think about how I managed and was so fearful of doing the jobs, all the different jobs that I did, being a radio producer and being a TV presenter and being a teacher, um, all without any training. I did have a little bit of training to be a teacher, but I found it so different to actually being in the classroom and wondering at the end of each job, what am I going to do next? How am I going to reinvent myself? I need money. So my life's taken so many sudden lurches to the left and been so scary at times that I'm delighted that the Sheerah network feels it's valuable and has redeemed all that at last.
You share a memorable moment from the filming process.
Well, actually, it was before the filming actually started. It was when the producer came to the door and she was looking $1 million. And I was wearing a cream jumpsuit with big turquoise splodges on and bare arms. And she took one look at me and she said, Mary, have you got anything a bit more appropriate, a bit more suitable for filming? And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even realize, I hadn't even thought about that this would be a bit too informal. So I said to her, oh yeah, sure, why don't we go up to my wardrobe and have a look, and we can look together. And we went up, and she was even more disappointed than she had been down at the door, because the state of my wardrobe was nowhere near what it used to be when I used to head to South Moulton Street and buy some really fab clothes for being on BBC Breakfast Time every day. Now that's a million years away. How things have changed. I'm a completely different person. So that was pretty memorable, yeah.
What were some of the most challenging moments for you while sharing your story on camera?
Well, it was the fact that I had to relive a very difficult part of my life. It was emotionally challenging for me to realize that as I was recounting the story, that I landed as a 6-year-old child in a really forbidding convent, a French convent in North London, with long echoing corridors and statues of the Sacred Heart with bleeding, blood coming all down his front. I was petrified most of the time, and I had to sleep in the toilets at night when I was only 6 and 7 against the hot pipes, because there were lights on there and I couldn't get to sleep. And I never had an arm around me or anyone to comfort me for months and months and months. And I relived that awful, quite traumatic time. But then I also suddenly got the insight that it was counterbalanced by the fact that every 3 months I went back to Nigeria, to my very loving family, to my lovely home. We'd go on trips with my dad on trains, and I realized the immense importance of that golden time, those golden times in my life, which gave me the strength and the confidence and the coping ability to be able to keep repeatedly stepping back year after year into the lion's den of a really tough situation. And that recipe has made me stronger, I think, than other people, because from the age of 6 to 12, I did that 18, 20 times, and I learned to cope. So that is what I learned. That's what challenged me, and I learned that I'm stronger.
Describe your overall experience during the filming process.
I think what was hard was that I didn't know the questions I was going to be asked. So it was about humility. I knew that I knew that the Sheerah Network had decided to create something really valuable that could help many different communities and types of people. And I realized that it was kind of pivotal moment for me. If I could only remember all the skills, the techniques, the mindsets, the tools, the things that I had done and employed in a very long and complicated life to succeed. If I could only dredge them up, I could really help some people. I could help maybe many people. I didn't know whether I could. I was trying to retrieve them from my long life, and hoping that I could get them across in a really meaningful way, and maybe help some people get up from under, who were drowning under the weight of their own ambitions, who were oppressed and not getting access to the roles and the futures that they wanted. And it kind of depended on my ability to look into my past and come up with the right tools and the right helps for them. I felt very humble about trying to get it right. I did my very best, but it was difficult to do.
So, what message do you hope that the viewers take away from the documentary?
I want them to take away hope for themselves, hope that no matter how bad it gets or how scary it gets, that they can still reinvent themselves like I've done. I want them to realize that I'm not special. I just worked and tried really hard. And in every role, because I didn't get much training apart from in Unilever and teaching, I used every resource that I could, every tool. I asked millions of questions. I observed how everything was done around me. I learned as hard as I could. I strategized to win. And that's because, like many women, I needed to succeed. I was divorced, I was a single mom, I was Black, my mistakes were extra visible. I discovered that I had active MS, multiple sclerosis, when I was 32. So that was a bit of an obstacle. And that's what I want them to learn too, that they can succeed, that they can tough things out, that they can cope with things that seem absolutely insurmountable. And I guess I'd like them to think about relying on God, because God certainly got me through all the many, many setbacks and obstacles. You know, having MS is no joke when you're on television one day and suddenly you have to resign because you actually have a chronic life-threatening condition. And you know, I discovered that it was important, and I want them to realize that it's good to be challenging, to be bold, to be different. Most people in life are unutterably bored with their lives. So this is your moment. Stand out. What have you got to lose if you've only got one crack at it? This is the moment to really go for broke. And remember what you've got in your rucksack. As you go through your life, you're acquiring skill after skill, even if it's being a parent, even if it's being a teacher, well, even if it's being an astronaut, you are acquiring skills and you're putting them in your invisible rucksack on your back. These are transferable skills. You can use them. Believe that.
What insight did you gain about yourself and your journey in which you were previously unaware of?
Well, I guess I realized that I'm tougher and stronger than most people. And I realized it actually only this week because I forgot to mention during filming that I actually, when I was 32, contracted remitting relapsing multiple sclerosis, which was a massive shock. But I didn't even remember to mention it. It was only 14 months later that I remembered I probably should have mentioned this major handicap to my future careers. It's become the air that I breathe, really, not any big deal. It is important. I've been in and out of hospital this year maybe 20 times, but it's just it's just the backdrop to me achieving what I want to achieve. It was one of the reasons that I left the BBC, not the only one. But it's also made me realize that when you look at people like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg or Jacinta Ardern, these people, they have problems too. They are probably made of sheet metal because they have to power on through to carve out their empires, run their countries, do whatever they do. And we can all do that. I had to do that. I had to get through having MS. I had to cope. I had to reinvent myself. So bite the bullet, believe in yourself, believe in God, which I did, and you'll make it.